Hey everyone, welcome back to Bill's Retro Gaming Show. And on today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start another edition of my Arcade1up wish list. Alright, so I've already done one of these, and the first one that I did was actually what I call a Marvel Legacy Cab. It was basically a Capcom Marvel Cab with all the Capcom Marvel games on it. My wish list actually included some other games as well, and if leaks that we've seen in the last couple of weeks are to believe, that one may actually be coming to fruition. Maybe not in exactly the way that I mentioned it in the video, but fingers crossed that there's a good chance that that cab may actually come. So who knows, maybe this next one will also come eventually. And this one should come as no surprise if you've read the title of this video. That's why you've clicked on it. The next one in my list is going to be what I'm going to be calling a Konami Legacy Cab. I think a lot of people are very desirous of a Konami Legacy. And of course, there's going to be a lot of debate over which games should be on it. I'm going to give my list of the games I would like to see. And I actually compiled, I think, about 17 different games that could be on this cab. And I'd be happy with any of them. Now, whether it turns out to be 10 or 12 or 14 games ultimately, we'd have to wait and see. Is it ever going to happen? We'll have to wait and see. Now, I actually think that eventually, yes, we will see some kind of a legacy cab from Konami, because we've seen Arcade1up do Konami games. Obviously, you have one of the first ones they did was the Frogger Time Pilot 84 cab. And of course, there were some issues with Frogger. Some of that may have to do with the fact that Frogger is kind of a split license between Konami and Sega and all. But, they did do that. That was basically a Konami cab. And then, of course, you've got the 4-player beat-em-up cabs. You've got the X-Men cab. You've got the Simpsons cab. And you've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cab. All games developed by Konami. So there is that relationship there between Konami and Arcade1up. So is it beyond the realm to think that we might see more games from Konami down the road? And so I'm going to start here. And this is actually going to be a two-part video for sure, because I'm going to focus on, I guess, non-sports Konami games, okay? Because I want to do a separate video on probably the most famous, or certainly one of the most desired cabs from the community that people are really hoping Arcade1up does, and that's a track and field cab. Okay, I want to focus totally on that in a separate video, because I think that deserves its own, and I think there are a number of great sports-related titles that could be on a track and field cab. They all have very similar play mechanics to track and field, or they could incorporate different play mechanics and still make it work. So you're not going to see track and field, you're not going to see any of those on this video, but you will see them in the next one that I do. All right, so let's get started talking about what could be on a Konami Legacy cab. And of course, first and foremost, you've got to talk about Frogger. It was on one of the cabs that Konami has already done, and I think they need to do it again. It would be nice if they could, get the sound right and do it up right. But my guess is if they do put this on a Legacy cab, it's going to be probably the same thing we've already seen on the Frogger cab itself. But having said that, it's a no-brainer to be on the Legacy cab. Next up is another game from 1981, and this is Amidar. Amidar is a lot of fun. This is a game where you have to run around a screen and draw around all these boxes to fill in all the boxes while you avoid all the enemies on screen. I believe you play as different type of little characters. In the video that's showing now, you play as this little monkey that is running around trying to clear up all the boxes. There's another level, I believe, where you're a paint roller, and each box is for different points. But, this was a lot of fun back in the day, and I think this would be a great one to show up on a Konami cab. This is another vertical game, just like Frogger, and I'm going to try to point out as I go along vertical versus horizontal. And I will say that most of the ones on my cab are vertical, And I'll get into a little bit more about that as we get more into the video. But this is Amidar. Next up is a side-scrolling shooter from Konami called Scramble. This is another one with a vertical screen, and I have just huge memories of playing this on my ColecoVision back in the day. I love this game. This is a very early style side-scrolling shooter where you've got your fire button for firing at the enemies that are coming at you, and then you've got your missile button where you're dropping missiles on the things below you. And one of the unique things about this is you have a fuel meter, and actually just kind of like Zaxxon does, you have to bomb the fuel tanks in order to get more fuel for your fighter. Because if you run out of fuel, then you die. But this is just, you know, a lot of fun game, and I think this would make a great addition to a Konami Cab. Next, we have another game that Konami, or I should say that Arcade1up has done from Konami before. This was also on the Frogger Cab, and this is Time Pilot. Another fun one that I remember back from the ColecoVision days that I used to really enjoy playing. And you play as this fighter pilot going around screen shooting down enemies, and each stage is a different era. So as you go from the 40s to the 60s to the 80s. And it's a lot of fun. Although, I mean, it can get a little repetitive, that's for sure. But, you know, for just a pick up and play arcade game, this would be a lot of fun. And again, since they have done this already on the Frogger Cab, I think this would be a no-brainer for a Konami Cab. All right, next up is one of my all-time favorite arcade games, and this is Gyruss. Man, I love this game. This one, for me, actually goes back to the original Nintendo Entertainment System. I played this over and over again. Such a fun shooter. I love the play mechanic of going around the screen in a circle on this. It lends something a little bit different to other shooters at the time, like the Galaga and Galaxian type games. And one thing for sure with this one, if they're going to do this, they 100% have to get the music right on this. This had like an upbeat kind of electronic version of Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, and it just fit the game so well. It was just one of the things I loved about the game so much was the music in it. And yeah, if you're going to screw that up, don't do it. Don't put this on there. But I think it's such a fun game. I think a lot of people would really love this. Again, vertical screen for this, like so many of the other games. You get this right, you get the music right, and this is a home run, in my opinion. Next up, another fun arcade classic, Roc N Rope. Again, on a vertical screen, and you play as this little guy here, whose name I totally forget, but I'm sure he has one. Somebody let me know in the comments. And the whole point here is you're trying to shoot your little rope and get up the screen, avoid all the little creatures that are coming at you, and make your way to the Phoenix at the top of the screen. And when you do, he flies you on to the next one. Just a really fun game, and I think would be a great addition to a Konami Legacy Cab. All right, this one I just thought I'd throw out there. This is Circus Charlie. It's a fun game. You know, you play as this little clown riding on a lion, and you're trying to jump over things and jump through hoops. And it's a cute little game, and I think it might make for a fun addition to a Konami Cab. Again, another vertical one, so it fits in well with some of the others that I've mentioned. And yeah, I just think it would be a lot of fun. Okay, back to another one that has already been done, and why I think it will be on a Konami Legacy Cab, and this is Time Pilot 84, the sequel to the original Time Pilot. Another one with a vertical monitor, very similar gameplay mechanic to the original, but obviously with updated graphics. And yeah, I just think this would be a lot of fun. And like I said, since this was already on the Frogger Cab, it just makes sense that they would add this to a Legacy Cab if they do one. Okay, now we're finally to a game that's the first one that I've mentioned that actually is on a horizontal monitor, and this is Gradius. This is the original Gradius. I love these games. They're a lot of fun. I will be honest, I put this here, and I put another one on this list that I will get to later, but I think that if Arcade1up wanted to do it, they could do a special cab that would just be the Konami side-scrolling shooters, because there's so many to choose from. You've got the Gradius series, which there are multiples of. You've got Lifeforce. You've got the Parodius series. There are just so many different ones they could choose from that to do them all in their own cab, I think would be a fantastic idea. So many people love these side-scrolling shoot-'em-ups that it would just... it would definitely work for sure. But barring that, to put one or two of them on a Legacy cab would make sense. And yeah, this is Gradius. Next up is Russian Attack or Green Beret, depending on where you're from and where it was made, because it came under two different names. And I forget whether that was a North America versus Europe or Asia thing, but yeah, either way, Russian Attack or Green Beret, however you remember it, it's basically the same game. This is another one that's a horizontal screen one, and it's basically just, you know, your guy running across the screen and taking out as many enemies as he can. Another one I remember from the original Nintendo, and I got to tell you, I have mixed emotions about this one because I felt like I could never get farther than the first stage playing this game. But I think to add it to a Konami Legacy cab, because it is a pretty well-known game, would probably make sense. Okay, back to our vertical screen games, and this is 1985's Twin B. This is a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. Yeah, this is a lot of fun game. I think this is kind of a precursor to some of the other ones, like I mentioned when I was talking about Gradius, the game's Parodius. This is kind of a precursor to those games in that it's kind of a cutesy version of a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, but still a lot of fun to play, and I think would be a good addition to a Konami Legacy cab. Okay, here's another one that is actually on a horizontal screen, but I think would be a lot of fun. This is such a classic from Konami, and this is Yie-Ar Kung Fu. Very similar in play mechanics to like a Karate Champ type game, although I believe this used a single joystick and button combination. It was not a dual joystick like Karate Champ was. But again, I think this would be a fun addition to a Konami Legacy cab because it's so well known and so beloved. Alright, here's another one that I think people have really fond memories of. This is another vertical screen shooter, and this is Jackal. This came out originally in 1986, and I don't know if you've noticed as I'm going through this, but yes, I am going through them in order by year, which is why maybe you're surprised that you haven't seen some yet, but stick with me, they're coming. And again, I think just a lot of fun game. You know, basically it's a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, but with a kind of a different play mechanic. We're so used to seeing these where you're in a plane or a spaceship of some kind. To have your character be in a Jeep running around and shooting at things was a very different type of play mechanic for the time. And I just think, again, it's a classic, and it's one that if Konami is going to, if Arcade1up is going to do a Konami Legacy, Jackal would be a fantastic one for them to add to it. Okay, and this is another one in the same line of Gradius. This is Lifeforce. Since I mentioned Gradius, I wanted to throw one other on here too, but I didn't want to do any of the other Gradius ones, although Lifeforce is basically a Gradius game. And again, I still believe that if Arcade1up wanted to, they could do a cab that's dedicated to these shooters, and I think people would really enjoy that. But barring that, to put one or two on a Legacy cab would be a lot of fun, and I just really happen to like Lifeforce as one of them, so that's why I added it to mine. You know, maybe you will have different thoughts and opinions on which ones you have. Maybe you like some of the other Gradiuses instead, or maybe you'd like to see one of the Parodiuses on there, because I did not include those on my list. But, you know, hey, it's my list. So I put Lifeforce on it. Deal with it. No, but in all seriousness, I do want people to comment and let me know what games they like that I missed, for sure. But, yeah, like I said, this is my list, and I decided to add Lifeforce. So there you go. And now we get to the one you've all been waiting to hear me mention. This is Contra. And one of the things about this is, again, it's a side scroller, but it is on a vertical monitor, which I totally forgot. I was so used to playing this on NES and the sequels on Super NES that I had forgotten that in the arcades this actually played on a vertical monitor. So that's interesting. Now, here's the thing about Contra. I'm going to say that if you are going to do a Konami Legacy Cab, that this is the game that should be your marquee title. Contra should be the marquee title on a Legacy Cab. I think it's got the name recognition that Arcade1up looks for when they're trying to sell to retailers, and I just think it would do really well. So again, this, without a doubt, if you're going to talk about doing a Legacy Cab from Konami, Contra has to be on it. No doubt about it. And personally, I would like to see it as the marquee title. And you know, what the hell, if you're going to do Contra, you might as well do Super Contra. Why not? Same thing, vertical monitor, side scroller, came out a year after the original, and I think this would just be a lot of fun to have on the cab. Again, if Contra is going to be the marquee title, why not throw Super Contra on there too? The last game on my list is Vendetta. This is one of Konami's side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I picked this one because it is a non-licensed title. It's not like the others that they've done. It's not an X-Men or a Ninja Turtles. Hell, it's not even Bucky O'Hare. All right, but I think to throw one beat-em-up on there would be great, and I think people would have a lot of fun with this one. So guys, there you have it. That's my list of games that I would love to see on a Konami Legacy Cab. Now, again, I'm going to say that was 17 different games that I picked. Okay, so I do not believe that they're going to put out a Legacy Cab with that many games on it. I think it's going to be a 12 or 14 game cab. Hopefully 14 games. We know that the new Legacy Cabs, the Atari, the Midway, the Namco one, are all going to have 14 games on them. So if you're going to do a Konami Legacy, I think you've got to go that same route. I think you got to have 14 games on it. So some of these may make it, some of these won't. There's probably going to be games that I didn't think of that will be on there. So again, let me know in the comments below, which game did I miss that you would want to see on a cab like this. Again, I purposefully did not put the 4-player side-scrolling beat-em-ups that they've already done because, you know, those were done the way they were done for licensing reasons. I also didn't put Sunset Riders on here because it's a 4-player game, and I wanted to stick with the ones that are 1 or 2 players that would fit for a cab like I'm mentioning. Another thing I wanted to talk about was orientation. You know, that thing we all love when they mix vertical and horizontal games. Now, most of the games that I mentioned on my list happen to be played on a vertical monitor. And I said Contra should be the marquee. So if you're going to make Contra the marquee, in my opinion, you have to put a vertical monitor in this cab. Okay, and even if you're going to put a couple of these horizontal games on there to play them with the bars along the top and whatever, try to get it to fit the best way possible, I think would be fine. Because I think 9 or 10 or more out of 12 or 14 of these games are going to be vertical games. So it just would make sense to have a vertical monitor in a cab like this. One other thing I want to mention, and I've said this before recently when talking about new cabs coming out, is that if they're going to release a Konami Legacy Cab, it has to have some sort of Wi-Fi support to it, whether it's leaderboards or whether it's online play. Now, with a lot of these games, I don't really know that online play really makes a difference so much, but for sure, it's got to have leaderboards. That's a no-brainer. Again, there's no reason at all why Arcade1up should not release any new game that doesn't at least have leaderboard capability on it. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave this for now. Again, this is just fun wishlist speculation that I hope one day comes to fruition. I really do hope that at some point we see a Legacy Cab from Konami. It's been hinted at, I think, in the past, but we haven't seen anything. Even with all the crazy leaks that have been going on over the last few weeks, one name that has not come up is Konami. They have not come up at all. Again, I'm going to do another video shortly about track and field and other games that I think could be on a track and field cab. That's been hinted at numerous times, and we haven't seen anything yet. So, you know, again, fingers crossed for that one, fingers crossed for this one. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, let me know in the comments, did I mention your favorites? Did I totally skip over your favorite? Do you think a Konami Legacy Cab is coming? Do you want it to come? So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are a subscriber to the channel, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, go ahead. Click that little button. And if you want to be notified every time I put out a new video, don't forget to click the little notification bell as well. Give this video a thumbs up and feel free to share it wherever you think it's appropriate, all right? But that's going to do it for this one. Again, hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again shortly with another video. So, take care and have a great day. We'll see you.